Okay, so we are live. Welcome to this week's episode of Startup Weekly. This week I am joined by Colm Hayden, who is the CEO of Cadoo.io, a mobile app designed to allow you to get fit and get paid at the same time. So Colm, thank you very much for joining us. You're very welcome.
Thanks, Gordon. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, great to have you. So look, maybe by way of introduction and starting things off, can you give us a little bit of background about yourself, Colm, personally, and then maybe how that played into what you're doing now with building Cadoo?
Definitely. I'm a casual runner, so no cross-country athlete, but I definitely like to run 2 to 3 times a day. And I've been running since early high school. And, I think fitness is something everybody should be keeping in mind and trying to reach towards. And I'm sure everybody has some type of fitness goal they want to reach. I've also been really interested in many things kind of in technology and entrepreneurial since I was young. One of my first ones was cryptocurrency, and straight out of high school, I ended up getting cryptocurrency internships at two companies, one of them being DigiNext, one of them being AirTM, both which help people transact money across borders with crypto. And early in high school, I guess through my love for cryptocurrency and technology and through my love for running, I kind of came across this idea of Cadoo. And I think both of them are very similar in the sense that they both use financial incentives to help people achieve something, whether that's reaching a fitness goal or whether that's helping people send money to somebody across borders.
Mm-hmm.
And I think ultimately what we're trying to do at Cadoo is build a system that people trust and rely on, and have this system help people achieve their goals and really hold them accountable.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So, do you think your background in the cryptocurrency stuff gave you a better understanding of building something like Cadoo now, where learning to build something where there is kind of trust and maybe almost like an element of gamification built into it?
I think the biggest takeaway that helped me with Cadoo, just from my crypto experience, is that if you remove a barrier of trust or build something that people can really rely on, it allows people to do things that they would never have done beforehand. I think to a lot of people now, even still, when we try to acquire users, the idea of competing against strangers on the internet to reach fitness goals is pretty insane and pretty absurd, especially when it comes down to how are you going to trust this? But since we rely on data from apps like Strava, iOS Health, Google Fit, we kind of help bridge this trust barrier in a big way. And it helps users really rely on the Cadoo app, really trust that their data is correct, and other users that they're competing with or against data is also correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you've got this background and enjoyment out of fitness and running and all of that, and then you're coupling that with your experience in a bit of technology and what you're building. So where did the spark come from with saying, okay, I'm actually going to go and build Cadoo, and what was that process like of maybe like formalizing what you were actually about to build, you know?
Well, I wouldn't say there's necessarily a spark moment that it started. The earliest I can remember of us doing something very closest to Cadoo has to be like a Snapchat running group that we did in high school.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, we had weekly running goals. My weekly goals were getting 15 miles in every single week. And my friends, the cross-country runners, would try to get 40 or 50. And we each had our weekly goals, and we were set them. And we would post our Strava runs or our Fitbit runs, just screenshots in the Snapchat group. And if we reached our weekly goal that we committed to, we didn't owe anybody any money. But if we didn't reach our goal, then we had to pay everybody else in the group $15 or $30 to, pay up for not holding ourselves accountable and reaching our goals. And this was a Snapchat group. It was 5 or 6 people doing this. We were all friends, so we trusted each other. And at the time, it really helped me just get my mile time down from probably 7 minutes to 5 minutes, 45 seconds, I think, at the end when we were doing that. And after high school ended, we all went and did different things. So our group kind of fizzled out after that. And I think when I actually decided to get down and start Cadoo was when I met my co-founder, Tim Parsa. And this was after our my internships with DigiNext and AirTM, and he had very similar visions, and I shared with him what I did in high school and how I thought this could work as an app. And then we decided to, get our hands dirty and start building it.
Awesome. So the app space, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like there's mobile apps for everything now. And I mean, entering a market where there is a huge amount of applications, and some would say maybe it's somewhat even saturated. What was the motivating factor for going with a mobile app versus maybe like a web app or something similar? Was it to like piggyback on a concept of Snapchat and kind of Strava and those ideas that people could easily access it for tracking their runs and their fitness goals? Is that the motivating factor, I guess? And I from a technology perspective as well, I think building a mobile app is probably considerably harder than a website or web app or something on that line, you know?
Yeah. I think it's important that it's mobile because a big part of Cadoo is building the tools that allow for verification to be very easy. And a lot of this is a lot easier to condense into a mobile app and for people to understand than do on a website. And I think for the most part, when it comes to many things fitness, it's going to be a lot easier to track and record stuff on a phone rather than bringing your laptop places. So that's actually a big thing I've realized since launching a mobile app, is that the difference between growth marketing for mobile and web, there's very stark differences. Also building, there's very stark differences as well. And also the users you get on mobile compared to web is just very different. But I think the reason we went with mobile is just because we want to build a platform that very easily verifies every single type of challenge on Cadoo. Right now, we work with other apps that verify really well, like Strava, iOS Health, and Google Fit. But in the future for Cadoo, a big thing we plan on doing is building AI that can track push-ups and body weight workouts really well. So we can do body weight workout challenges on Cadoo, as well as building out our own native running and recording platform similar to what Strava has. And a lot of this is going to be a lot easier to condense into a mobile app than condense into a web app.
Awesome. Yeah, well, it sounds like you've got lots of good stuff planned. But one of the things you mentioned there was the users and the kind of difference or variance in users of mobile apps versus traditional web apps. And maybe can you talk to who your typical user is and like who's the typical person profile that is going to like get the most benefit out of using something like Cadoo? And what have you seen since beginning that journey of building that out?
I think for anybody that's trying to build something new, it's really important to niche down and find a niche where the users of this niche are really going to love your product and it really solves a big problem or pain point for your users. And our niche are really passionate users, or users that run 5 to 6 miles every single day, all the time. And especially now they have this big problem where they're not able to find the motivation they're looking for. With coronavirus, they used to run 5 or 6 marathons a year. Now all of a sudden, every single marathon is canceled. So every single runner doesn't have much to look forward to right now. So we kind of come in at a good place where we can message them on Strava or find them on Instagram or Facebook and reach out and say, hey, we realize you run 6 miles a day. You would love our app. On top of this, you can get paid for running if you commit to these challenges. And I'd say our really initial customer profile, what we call it, is these users that really just love to run, almost live to run, and want to find extra motivation in their running to push them a little bit harder.
Awesome. Yeah, I think for me anyway, I think that incentive oftentimes gives you more of a reason to do it, and it's holding you accountable as well. And the financial reward or incentive is like, it's like a bit of fire under your ass, I suppose, to get you going. So that's interesting. And another thing I think from an entrepreneurial standpoint that I hear from a lot of people that we speak to is like the typical user for a lot of apps often is not the original user that the founder or the creator anticipated. And maybe that's not something you've experienced because yours is quite niche, but have you found that there's been any difference in the original people that were using the app versus now? Or maybe there's alternative demographics or personas that are now using your product that you didn't anticipate in the beginning?
I think one thing we learned really early on is that we had an idea for a product and we pushed it to the market and we tried to find users that would use this product. And then one switch we did is as soon as we started realizing that our original product wasn't getting users, we had to switch to something that users would actually like. So really just looking at your users and seeing what's going to solve their problems is going to be really helpful. The original V1 for Cadoo wasn't group challenges, which is what we have currently on the app. The V1 for Cadoo is if you, Gordon, ran 10 miles, then I would pay you $10 for reaching your fitness goal. So it's almost like I'm backing you for completing your challenge. And we launched this. It was really hard to acquire users because I had to get you to trust me, and then I had to get your friend to trust you as well to pay you $10 to actually run. Whereas with group challenges, the acquisition was a lot easier, and it was almost like we were providing so much more value because we were actually the ones creating this group of people to do challenges with, rather than having you create your own group and you go out and do all the work. So I think it's really important to build a product that's shaped around your users, and I think that's really something to keep in mind whenever you're building a product, whether it be on web or on mobile.
Yeah, absolutely. So is the current version then is more of a pooling with groups where the group is incentivizing each other with staking like micro rewards essentially? Would that be a good way of phrasing it? Is that?
So how Cadoo currently works is we have Cadoo challenges, and we'll host about 40 a month, and there's many different ones to pick from: walking, cycling, biking, running, and each challenge is going to cost anywhere from $5 to $50, and you pay to join this challenge. And each challenge has a fitness goal that you want to reach, whether that's running 5 miles on the weekend, walking for 30 minutes during the day. And all of these challenges are verified with apps like Strava, Fitbit, iOS Health, Google Fit, apps that are really good at recording your data. And if you reach your fitness goal, you're going to get your money back, plus money from the losers of the challenge, evenly redistributed to the winners. And if you lose the challenge, then the money you put into the challenge is just going to go back to the winners. So we create this incentive structure where everybody's reaching the same goal and everybody commits to the same terms of the challenge. And if you reach your goal and complete the challenge, then you're going to get your money back plus a little bit extra for actually reaching it.
So how do you think that reward function from maybe like a psychological perspective plays into what people are committing? Because I don't know, like maybe you looked at the psychology of it, or I'm not sure how well versed you are in that aspect, but it seems to me like that probably does play quite a large part in why people use it.
I think it's both intrinsic and external motivation that comes into play. You have to have the intrinsic motivation to put money down on yourself and bet towards your goal. And then you have to have the external motivation to actually follow up and complete the challenge. So it's a little bit of both. And I think in general, a lot of the devices we use to get users to complete challenges with notifications and gamification of a leaderboard and stuff like that is all put on steroids with financial incentives. And I think financial incentives is something that really just makes Cadoo one of the most motivating ways to reach a fitness goal on the internet, because we'll quite literally take money away from you if you don't reach your goal. And I think a lot of people, especially nowadays, are looking for something like this, as the internet just has a lot of distractions on it. And I think nowadays in 2020, there's more distractions in life than almost ever before. So if you can use something like Cadoo to commit to something you really want to reach and a goal that you're really passionate towards, I think a lot of people will be looking to use this financial incentive to help them do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, especially with so much noise, there's that added incentive, I think, for people to root out what is going to work for them at any given moment. So yeah, that's a great insight. And what has your main approach been to growth with Cadoo so far? Because I think me thinking about it from a mobile app perspective, it's probably quite different than trying to grow a website or a web app and get people using it. So what has been your kind of maybe your strategy or approach to growth and getting it out there?
Well, I think it's much better to have 100 people that really love your product than a million people that kind of sort of like it, as Paul Graham would say. So we really want to make sure that every user that comes on and pays for a challenge is really having a great experience. If they're not having a great experience, then we need to fix something in our app. And in the short term, we fix something by doing things that don't scale. So we have a flow that's set up. Every single time a user pays for a challenge, we'll instantly try to send out an email to them, try to get on a call, try to figure out why they joined the challenge, what they're looking to get out of it, and how we can help them reach their goals. And also, if there's any problems that they ever have, whether the app isn't tracking data properly or anything like this, we'll be sure to be right on top of that and fix it as well. And I think the best way to build organic growth is to build trust, because if you think of what organic growth is, it's really other people just selling your business for you. And I think one of the best ways to do this is just to build trust with your users, build trust with the people that are promoting you and the people that love your app. And that's one of the best ways you can grow early on. And that's really what we're trying to focus on here. So top funnel, we get all of our users just from finding them on either social media or Strava and messaging them and saying like, hey, I'm seeing you're running 6 miles a day. You seem perfect for Cadoo. Would you want to try out our app? And we'll message about 100 and 150 of those comments a day. And then as soon as users actually join challenges, then we'll be sure to be their best friend and call them and make sure that they're having a good experience on their app. And if they don't have a good experience, that's still good for us, because then we get all this data on how to improve our app and how to make it a good experience for everyone.
Awesome. Yeah, I think just that manual approach in the beginning it's so important, I think. And you mentioned as well just about building relationships. And I think one of the things that has really hit home with us as well is like just nurturing those relationships from an early stage is really kind of what sales is about. And you're obviously tapping into the same thing there with manual outreach and really nurturing those initial customers.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that are doing a consumer facing product, especially early on, should really be thinking about it as in a sales process. Like for us, for our customers, even though we're not very salesy, we're a mobile app, we do have a CRM of every single customer and where they are on their journey, because we only have about 1,000 paying users, and it's really easy for us to go ahead and go manage that and make sure they all have a good experience right now. And as far as scale, I see us really scaling when we get our product to a point where we don't even have to do any of this anymore. And the best way we can get our product there is by talking to our users, figuring out what they like, figuring out what they don't like, figuring out what doesn't scale that works really well, and then figuring out how to make that scale afterwards. And if we can do all of this, I think that's really how we just skyrocket our growth, by finding 100 people that really love us and then figuring out how to get somebody to come on the app and really love us for the first time without us ever talking to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you're laying the solid foundations for that already. So well done. I'm interested to know what kind of trends you're seeing maybe in the mobile app space or just in the tech space in general, and how maybe you're capitalizing on those trends with Cadoo and how you're trying to grow. So any kind of macro stuff that you're trying to ride the wave of?
I think gamification is really a big one. Like a lot of the concepts in Cadoo were kind of inspired by my love for Duolingo. And I think in general, a lot of apps and websites are trying to add things like social feeds and gamification into them. And it's really, really can be like a really good motivating force for something that's really good. And I think especially if it's a goal that people want to reach, like a fitness goal or learning a language, people are going to be very inclined to almost get hooked or get addicted to this service. So I just think the whole trend of really find something that's really addictive and really motivating towards users is something that users are going to want. And in general, I think a big reason why I can see Cadoo working in the future is because as the internet grows, everything gets more connected. Right now, almost all of your apps are interconnected in some way. And I think with Cadoo, we can, use these connections to form verifications for certain tasks and certain objectives, and use these to create this incentive structure that is behind Cadoo challenges for all of these different goals in your life. And my long-term vision for Cadoo is whether you have any goal, if you go to Cadoo and commit to it, there's a good chance that you're going to be able to get this goal completed and reach this goal with Cadoo financial incentive structure.
Awesome. Yeah, I think one of the things you mentioned there was like just the connection that happens as the internet grows. And I think one of the things that just came to mind for me is like something Cadoo might be able to capitalize on would be a similar model to Zapier in the way that maybe like they have a whole ecosystem around connectivity of all their apps. And I don't know, I'm just thinking like you could probably in the future think about ways to integrate Cadoo into other ecosystems with different integrations, and whether they're B2B or B2C, and just getting access to larger groups of people via those types of integrations and partnerships kind of.
Yeah, that's definitely a big way we plan on growing in the future. Strava has 30 million monthly active users. iOS Health and Google Fit have over 100 million each monthly active users that use their services natively on their phones. And we think by integrating with these services and making it really easy and really compatible with them, it's going to be really easy to tap into their monthly active user base and get these users to also be using Cadoo. Because one of the biggest things we found early on, if you're a Strava lover, if you run 6 miles a day and really love Strava, it's really easy to get you to love Cadoo. So we think we can get these apps that have tons of users that are really good at tracking fitness goals. And further than that, apps like Khan Academy or stuff like that that are really good at tracking education goals or wellness goals, and build a financial incentive structure around them and get them to really love Cadoo as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's so much room for growth, especially. I mean, this kind of leads on to my next question, but with technology and fitness in general, and you've spoken about it a bit already, but how do you think about the intersection of those two, of technology and of fitness? And I mean, there's some prime examples, like you said, like Strava or Fitbit, that are kind of like giants of that intersection. But I'm interested to know how you think about it, and maybe then how you the growth trajectory for you guys within that space.
Well, I mean, if we look at the fitness app market, it's growing about 10, 11% every single year. And right now it's about $6 billion. And I think personally, my personal experience is that after I started using Strava, I could not do a run without tracking it on Strava, because being able to see your mile times and see how much you're running, whether you're on like a set elevation or not, is just so valuable and so rewarding that I would not want to do it without Strava. And then after I built Cadoo, and what I see with a lot of the users of Cadoo is that they refuse to run if it's not in a Cadoo challenge, because then they're not going to be making money for their goals, and their goals aren't really going to be appreciated as much. So one thing I definitely see with fitness and tech is fitness getting much more connected and being much easier to track for people that are working out in every way, shape, or form. And then also apps like Cadoo adding accountability to people in the fitness space and in fitness in general, just creating it much easier to stick to your goals and stay accountable to reaching them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, there's going to be a huge amount of growth, like you said, in the next few years. And I think you're coming in at such a good time to capitalize on that and all the trends that are happening right now. So what maybe, speaking to your own kind of entrepreneurial journey, Colm, what is it that you love most about like pursuing building something yourself versus doing something else, maybe, you know, and what really gets you passionate about building something yourself?
I think definitely the high moments for Cadoo have been when I see users using something that I've built and really loving it. One of the first high moments for us is when we got our first challenge that had over 20 people in it. And then it was like, okay, this is a real thing now. There's actually people using this. We need to be careful on what we like put out on the app now and make sure everybody's having a good time. And then I think most recently, as we launched push-up challenges, we sent out an email survey to our users asking them to submit push-up videos to help us train our model. And then we had over 500 passionate users just submit it within the first 2 days. Mm-hmm. And it was really, really gratifying to see all of these users that love Cadoo also submit videos of them doing push-ups, and really excited for us to get a push-up model that tracks push-ups out live on the app.
Amazing. Yeah. So, I mean, you've spent a bit of time building your app and building your initial user base. So I think one of the interesting things to hear from people doing something like what you're doing is the lessons learned along the way. And obviously everyone is on a different journey with whatever they're building, but everyone will make their own mistakes and learn their own lessons. But is there anything that you would like to impart from building Cadoo so far that is maybe a major lesson learned, or something you had to learn the hard way along the way?
I think there's certain things that you can control within your environment when you're doing a startup, and certain things you can control that you can't control that are outside of your environment when you're building a startup. Mm-hmm. We can try as hard as we can to get as many users as we can to join the challenge, but if there's a fire in California and it's smoky and 60% of our user base can't go outside and run, that's going to really affect our metrics. So I think it's really important when you're setting goals for a startup to make a goal that's very achievable but unfathomable if you don't reach this goal. So for example, for us, we try to grow 20% every single month. And at our small scale, this is very doable. But if we don't reach this goal, this is something that is going to be extremely catastrophic. So we need to make sure that we're reaching this goal every single month. And I think the most important thing you can do is set goals that require you to work every single day, that aren't overly ambitious, that you just will ignore, and something that will be unfathomable if you miss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a nice way of phrasing it, and like being realistic about the stuff that you're working towards, and knowing that you can take those steps every day to continuously build towards it. So yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice. So what is next on the roadmap for Cadoo in terms of maybe features, or what's going to be your main focus over the next kind of 3 to 6 months, let's say, at the start of 2021?
Well, one thing we're working on right now is a complete app redesign. Mm-hmm. Currently, the Cadoo app's blue. Our logo and branding is blue. We don't think this necessarily fits for the fitness audience. If you look at Equinox or any high exclusive gym, they're all going to be branded in black. Mm-hmm. So we're changing the app to black and making it very elite and exclusive. We kind of want to be the Equinox of the fitness app space. Mm-hmm. And that will actually hopefully be live before 2020 ends. And as far as future features, one thing we want to do is start recording a lot of the stuff that's recorded in Cadoo natively, where you don't have to integrate Strava, or you don't have to work with iOS Health or Google Fit to get your data onto Cadoo. And this comes with building out practically our own Strava, where you can record your runs entirely within Cadoo, and building out our own step trackers, and building out our own abilities, our own AI models that can track push-ups and everything like this. So within the first quarter of 2021, we hope to have push-up challenges live, and we hope to have step challenges live that are entirely native in Cadoo, where you won't have to use any other app to use our service. You can do it all within Cadoo.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you're going to be busy for the remainder of the year, as well as well into 2021. So yeah, the very best of luck with it all. If people want to check out Cadoo, they can find you and Cadoo at cadoo.io, and they can download the app on the Play Store as well as the Apple App Store. So, Colm, is there any other final words of wisdom you'd like to say before we finish up?
I'd say that's pretty much it. Thanks so much, Gordon, for having me. And I'm really excited to check out Startup Weekly and your whole community.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, thanks for taking the time to join, and the best of luck with everything building Cadoo. I look forward to seeing the progress.
Sweet.
Cheers, my man. Have a good one. Bye-bye.